sports, a bridge that brings people together. And here in the Commonwealth, it's no different. From the gridiron to the hardwood and beyond, we all have a team we love to talk about. Now for the teams you care about, here's Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice.
And welcome into another edition of Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 on the AM, and we are also live streaming this afternoon on ESPN Radio 1061.com. And you can also go back and listen to every show on my Twitter account. Follow me at Radio Trevor Rice. I have an Apple Podcast link on there, and you can always go and click on that and listen to every show on the go, as today's show should be uploaded tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow at some point. And so if you missed an interview or something, like we have Joe Zerhusen of the Cincinnati Reds, who will be joining me here in the next segment. We'll get him on the phone line and talk about all of the big off-season changes the Reds have made to their roster as they try to bulk up for this 2020 season, and expect them to make some noise in the National League Central, to be quite frank. All the moves that they've been making the past couple of seasons, and they were right there last year, too, in the offseason. One of the teams people were talking about, the changes they were making. It seems like they have a really solid starting pitching rotation now. They're starting to get the bats in place, and you really feel like that if they get that bullpen going this year, that the Reds could make a strong run, and not only the National League Central, but possibly a deep playoff run, which we haven't been able to talk about that for, 5-6 years now? So hopefully we'll get some answers from him to see where exactly this team is. We'll shoot the question to Joe as well, how many wins he thinks this team will have. He probably won't answer that just because he doesn't want to put any pressure on himself. But, it doesn't hurt to ask to see what he thinks that the Reds can do this year. Seems like the Cubs are dropping. Cardinals didn't make any big moves. Pirates are still there. Milwaukee, I feel like it's open. Don't you? And then a little bit later in the hour, we will talk about college basketball. We'll get into Kentucky Wildcats, the Louisville Cardinals, the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, which you can hear here, the Hilltoppers, that is, on 106.1 ESPN Radio. We'll talk about their games and much more coming up a little bit later on. But I'm going to reserve this segment, I think, for talking high school basketball. And I was feeling like hot garbage on Friday, but still got through the game. Got to see John Harden pick up another big victory, a 29-point win over Nelson County on Friday night to improve their overall record, picking up their 27th victory on the season. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the boys' side of things this segment. We'll look at the girls' 17th district action. And next week, people, if you can believe that already, we're going to be talking about the 17th District boys and girls basketball tournaments, and the following week, the 5th Region tournaments. So the next couple of weeks after this one are going to be jam-packed full of doubleheaders. So be looking out for that as we'll get into those schedules as well. This is Heartland Sports Live, though. We're on every Monday 5 until 6. Let's get into this thing. The boys' 5th Region standings so far, looking like this. So you have John Harden at top. They are 27-2, 12-1 in 5th Region play. That one loss coming to Elizabethtown, and then 7-1 in the district. Elizabethtown overall in the 5th Region standings, they are 21-2. As that E-Town team has been fun to watch this season as well. We'll have them tomorrow night when they take on LaRue County. More on that here in just a bit. 12-1 in region play, 7-1 in the district. Looking at the ratings percentage index, it's John Harden with the advantage there at a .70 compared to a .66 for E-Town. And then you go third, Bardstown. We saw that John Harden-Bardstown matchup on Tuesday night. That was a fun one. John Harden coming from behind. They were down by as many as 15 there in the first half to the Tigers, but came back and won by 5, 75-70. So you look at Bardstown, they are 19-8, 11-2 in the 5th Region, still undefeated, or finished undefeated in their respective district. LaRue County, 4th overall, with a .587 RPI rating. They finished. They are 18-6 at this point, 11-1 in the 5th Region, undefeated in 18th district play. Then it's Marion County sitting at 18-7. They are 13-2 in the 5th region so far, 7-0 in district play. And you're looking at those top 5 teams. I think they're going to make this one interesting, just for the fact that you get any one of those 2 teams meeting in the first round. You're eliminating some competition real fast, because after those top 5, I am not feeling necessarily confident in any other team to really get things going. Central has been making a compelling case here recently. If they can make it to the district tournament, the 17th district tournament championship game, that they could make some noise. They're one of those teams that could be scary to be facing up against in the opening round of the 5th region tournament, because they have the size, and Matt Nickel has that team playing at a much higher level than where they were back in December. They've upped their average in scoring by probably like 20 points if you were to look at it, just from comparing games to December to where they're at now. And when you have that much more offense, it makes it much more easier on the defensive side for you, that you don't have to necessarily commit fouls and create extra chances that necessarily wouldn't have been there to begin with. So Central Hardin looking much improved, and yeah, they're below 500. They're 12-13, but they had some kids getting into basketball shape back in December because of the late season and the end of the postseason for football. So now that Central is starting to make some noise, they could be an interesting one if they make it to the 17th district championship game. Now, can they beat John? Probably not. I think John Hardin is better than Central. I think John is the best team going into this tournament, obviously. I mean, best record overall. They've beaten some of the toughest competition in the state, as at one point I think they took on, out of an 8-day stretch, they took on like 5 ranked teams, which is insane, by the way. So 27-2 John Hardin. Central Hardin 12-13. And then you got Campbellsville at 12-13. I don't know a whole lot about them. I have not seen them in person. But being one of those who has seen Central at least a few times, I've seen them evolve this season. I feel like they're going to make some strong noise. North Hardin, 10-16. I think that they can make things interesting against John. North is going to play Fort Knox, obviously. And then what it's going to come down to is, can North disrupt what John plans to do? We saw in the last meeting between North Hardin and John Hardin, if those two teams do end up playing each other, they're, what is it, Wednesday? John Hardin High School is hosting both the boys and girls 17th district tournaments, by the way, this season, so that'll be next week. But I would suspect that Michael Kofer is going to have his team hold on to the ball for extra seconds on every possession and keep that score as low as possible and really slow things down, like they did in the last meeting. They almost played it to perfection. Unfortunately, a few shots not dropping there at the end, and then John ended up winning. But you have to expect that North is going to come in with that same approach of holding on to the basketball for extra seconds. Try to just milk the clock as long as they can. Try to find the easiest opportunity for an under the hoop basket, and just hope that they have enough luck on their side that night to pull off the upset. Because if they were to knock out John, then the 5th region tournament, in my opinion, is kind of wide open. Because I think as good as E-Town is, there's still some competition in there, like Bardstown, who has the size. They can make things very interesting when it comes down to that championship game in the 5th region on the boys' side. So we're going to see how it all plays out. And, of course, this is the final week of the regular season, and we'll get you set for the 17th district tournaments next Monday right here on Heartland Sports Live 5 until 6. So be looking out for that. Now on to the girls' side, as we're going to look at the standings there. Of course, Bethlehem has overtaken Elizabethtown. Elizabethtown having a bunch of roster issues. This team is going the wrong direction. Yes, they're still second overall in in the 5th region at a 20-5 record, but with off the court issues with certain players, injuries, this team has not looked the same here over the last several weeks, and you're going to have to really find it in yourselves if you're E-Town to make a strong run. And now, are they still one of the better teams in the 5th region? Obviously, yes. A lot of the competition they're going to be better than. But there's going to be some stiff competition in this year's girls' 5th region tournament. And when I say that, I mean I really do mean it, because there are so many teams right now above 500 that I think this is going to be one of the most compelling 5th region girls tournaments here in recent history. Because you have Bethlehem atop of the standings right now. They're 25-3, still undefeated in the 5th region, undefeated in district play. Elizabethtown, they only have one loss in region play. So you look at them, and that coming to Bardstown, they lost by 3. So that's why I'm saying, like, this year's 5th region girls tournament could be wide open. E-Town suffering their first loss in the 5th region this season to Bardstown on Friday, losing 57-54. Then it's Bardstown, 3rd overall, 17-8 record. They are 9-2 in 5th region play, 6-2 in the district. Then it's Marion County at a 21-7 mark. Central Hardin, they are playing much, much improved basketball from where we saw them in December. They look like a completely different animal out on the floor. 17-8 overall. Then it's North Hardin. They are 17-10. I mean, just listen to these records. I mean, this is how competitive Region 5 girls basketball is this season. You have Greene County at 14-10, Thomas Nelson's 15-11, Hart County is 14-9, Campbellsville is 15-10. Just listen to how many teams there are, at least 5 to 6 games above 500 right now in this region. You don't think that's going to make for an exciting 5th region girls tournament? I mean, I'm looking forward to it already. Regardless of the fact, of 17 district teams being in this tournament, because we're going to cover every game as it is. So you look at that, and I get to see all of these teams play. You're going to hear every single game right here on 106.1 ESPN Radio, and also online with ESPNRadio1061.com. So follow along with our social media, because I'm going to keep you up to date every single game, and listen to us online if you can't make the games, because we want to provide you with great content. I think you're going to enjoy this year's 5th region girls tournament. I think you'll enjoy the boys too, but I think the girls is much more fascinating with how much competition there's going to be. Bethlehem, yes, they're 25-3, but don't think they're just going to go in there and steamroll the competition, because it seems like everybody has upped their game. Central Hardin, they got knocked out early in the 5th region tournament a season ago. Don't think these girls don't have that on the back of their mind, because the way that they are playing transition basketball right now, up and down the floor, creating second chance opportunities, flying to the ball, getting these big victories. Monica Lindsay right now has upped her game so much. She's been the leading scorer in a majority of the Lady Bruins basketball games. She has evolved into a totally different player from the beginning part of the season till now. Let's just say this team rides on her back right now, and don't be surprised if we're talking about her being an impact player, not only in the 17th district tournament, but also in the 5th region tournament too. I think Central, the way that E-Town has been struggling here recently, Central might be able to make things interesting if those two teams were to meet up in the 17th district championship game. I really do. I really do feel like they could. And I feel like that first game between Central and North in the 17th district tournament is going to be very interesting. Of course, those two teams split games, but Central looks like a completely different team, like I said, compared to what North is. North, they face some tough competition, but Whitney Hooper has that team playing well this season as well. So you can't discredit any of the 17th district teams, because I feel like they're all playing at a much higher level so far, and I think this year's 17th district tournament is going to be a fun one to watch, just simply for that fact. But you have 9 or 10 teams who are all 5 or 6 games above 500. It's going to be a fun one, and I cannot wait for the 5th region tournament. We'll get more into that next week. Well, probably in a couple of weeks, because obviously we have the district tournaments, and then we'll find out the seeding next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, on where the 5th region tournaments will end up. And so we'll bring in all of that. Other 17 district teams on the girls' side. Fort Knox, John Hardin 8-17. Fort Knox is 7-15 towards the bottom. Most likely it's going to be Fort Knox and probably John going at it in the beginning part of the 17th district tournament, and then I would see John, who won both games during the regular season, going and playing against E-Town there in the doubleheader. So, if I were to take guesses right now, I still like E-Town and John in the 17th district boys championship game, and I still like E-Town and honestly, I think I'd have to go with Central. The way they're playing basketball right now, I'm going to go E-Town and Central in the 17th district girls championship game. And I feel like that 4 of those teams, all 4 of those teams, the way they've been playing, we could have Hardin County schools in the 5th region championship games on both sides, which would be great. I mean, how cool would that be, having two Hardin County schools in the boys and girls Sweet 16 tournaments, and then anything can happen from that point forward. But I feel like John is going to have a new focus going into this year. They know that they got knocked out early last year, and they don't want to repeat that on the boys' side. Girls' side, E-Town, if they get Sydney Clark back and healthy and ready to go, they could and they can get themselves into that 5th region championship game somehow in a rematch against Bethlehem. I would suspect that Donnie Sweeney's going to take that game's approach much differently this time around. Last year, you kind of felt like it was Bethlehem's game. Just if you were there and you got to see how the shots were just falling through, they'd bounce high up off the rim and then just fall through the hole. You just kind of knew that it was going to be Bethlehem's night, the Lady Banshees' night to win that game. Just the way some of those shots were going in that shouldn't have. I'm looking forward to a rematch if it does happen. If not, new blood in there is not a bad thing. Well, us make some things happen in this year's boys and girls 17th district and 5th region tournaments this year. Well, I have Joe Zerhusen of the Cincinnati Reds coming up in the next segment. He'll join me on the phone line, so we'll talk to him and get his thoughts on where this Reds organization is headed for the 2020 season, because they have made the most off-season transitions, trying to get new ball players in to get this team rolling into this 2020 season, which will be here before you know it, and you'll be able to catch every Reds game here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. So Joe Zerhusen will join me on the phone line in the next segment. We'll get his thoughts on some of the new players who have come in, where he thinks some of the old players will stand from trying to make improvements here through the offseason and trying to get going for opening day, as the National League Central looks like it could be the Reds taking. It could be there for the Reds taking. And now I'm hoping that I just didn't jinx the team. Joe Zerhusen's coming up on the way. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio. And welcome back into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM. And we are online this afternoon with ESPN Radio 1061.com. As promised, I was going to have Joe Zerhusen of the Cincinnati Reds joining us here in segment 2, talking about the Reds. They have made a lot of off-season changes. New players have been added in, and we're going to talk about it all with Joe, who is joining us on the phone line now, the broadcast and affiliates manager with the Reds and us here at 106.1 ESPN Radio. Joe, how have you been?
I am wonderful, Trevor. How about yourself, man? Everything okay?
I'm getting over being sick, but we are making it through. And it's a Monday. We're on the grind again, and so I just have to suck it up and get over it.
There you go, man. That's all you can do. Whatever it is, take care of it. There's something out there that's lingering, and it just takes a while to get rid of. But, hey, one thing to make you feel better, baseball's right around the corner. We have a game on Saturday, if you can believe that.
Yeah, it's coming up before you know it. And there's been a lot of things that have gone on over the last couple of weeks with the Reds organization, Joe. Of course, you're right there in the thick of things, so you've gotten to see it all happen. What is the biggest headline, you think, for the Reds here recently?
Well, I think probably the biggest headline would actually be, as you mentioned, the acquisitions, the off-season acquisitions that we went into camp with. Obviously, headlines with camp itself starting. Suarez and his shoulder surgery, obviously, is a story. But I still think that the biggest story we have is the fact that we have, over this off season, we have added Mike Moustakas, Wade Miley, Nick Castellanos. Pedro Strop was invited to camp. We free agent signing just earlier this month, and another name that you really can't forget about. We acquired in November, right around the 20th, Jose De Leon from the Rays, and that's going to be an interesting acquisition. He actually had a chance to spend some time with him on the Caravan this year. And again, you look at somebody like that and you say, okay, where could he fit into the mix with the pitchers that we've added? With Wade Miley now coming on board, what about that starting rotation? So yeah, I think the off-season acquisitions have to be the biggest headline.
Derek Dietrich, I saw, re-signed with the Reds at a minor league contract. Do you think that had to do with the Eugenio Suarez situation?
Well, no, honestly, I have a feeling that was going to happen all along. I don't think that one led to the other. I believe that all along, even at the end of last season, I would guess that he would be somebody that they would say, okay, yeah, no, let's at least invite him to camp if he's still out there, and let's see what happens. I mean, obviously, you can't forget what he did for us on opening day of last year. Started the season very strong and then tailed off toward the end. So no, I don't think that the Suarez situation had anything to do with it. I think he would have been there anyway.
One thing that we were talking about a season ago was the strong pitching starting rotation that we were starting to see, but there was always the question mark of who in the bullpen was going to step up. Where do you see this Reds pitching here for 2020, Joe?
Well, obviously going in, it's probably the best situation that we have had from a starting pitcher aspect. I mean, Luis Castillo, Trevor Bauer. You go and as I mentioned before, when you bring in a Wade Miley and you start adding him to the mix, I think that that's a pretty strong group that's going to be heading out there, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of shapes out. You got Robert Stevenson, Anthony DeSclafani. On paper, right now, it looks like it's a pretty impressive group from a starting standpoint. But then again, what does that mean as far as moving things into the bullpen? Some of those guys that we've looked at as starters in the past, say a Cody Reed kind of a situation. What is that going to do with the bullpen situation? How is it going to shape out? I think you're going to find that you're going to have the names that are going to be sticking out that you're going to go into, as I mentioned, Castillo and Trevor and Sonny Gray, obviously. Those are the names that you're really going to be looking at as being the probable starting rotation. Anthony DeSclafani, but then again, what's going to shake out with the remainder? I mean, there's some pretty impressive names in there, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Joe Zerhusen with the Reds joining us here on Heartland Sports Live, broadcast and affiliates manager. You mentioned Anthony DeSclafani had a strong end to 2019. Does he keep that rolling this season?
No, I think he does. I at least I hope so. I'm a big fan. I like what he has done, and I think he continues to get better with this group of coaches that are working with these guys. I mean, look, you really can't forget that either. The fact that we have a group in there right now with Derek Johnson and even Caleb Cotham, the assistant pitching coach. I mean, in the off season, I was involved in some things that would be happening here in the ballpark, events that you would have David and a few other people, including the affiliate luncheon in January, and they would be there along with Nick Kroll and Dick Williams, and they'd be talking about things that were happening and how they were going. There is a tremendous respect for Derek Johnson and Caleb Cotham when it comes to how they are going to manage this pitching staff and keep everybody on the same page and all of that. So not only do you have the personnel, but you also have the coaches. And when you're looking at somebody like an Anthony DeSclafani, another year in there with Derek Johnson and the growth and everything that seemed to happen last year, I see no reason why it's not going to continue. He's a heck of a pitcher.
And when you talk about pitching and think about the defensive side of the ball, is this going to be one of the better defensive teams in your opinion?
That's going to be interesting. That outfield is, we have some people that are going to be out there going after some positions. Aristides Aquino, I mean, you talk about somebody that was strong for a period of time last year. You got Shogo Akiyama, who's going to be coming in and being a force to be reckoned with. You got Philip Irvin out there, Nick Senzel, Jesse. So outfield-wise, it's going to be kind of an up for grabs with a bunch of guys going after those positions. Infield, I mean, again, the situation with Eugenio Suarez. What is that going to do to the infield? I mean, it's nice to have Moustakas in there. I didn't even mention in the outfield with Nick Castellanos and what that's going to do. But with Moustakas and the situation that now exists with Suarez, there's an option that I've heard some people throwing around in here, and I'm sure that you've heard it as well. And that is, is that a situation where you might be able to bring Nick Senzel back into the infield to play second base and move Moustakas over to third? So the options are there. Is it going to be a strong defense? I certainly would think so. With the additions that have been made, absolutely, I think it's going to be a strong defense. I think that it still remains to be seen who's going to be where, though, come opening day.
How much pressure is there for David Bell to have this team performing early?
I think the key word there is early. Because, as you well know, last year and the year before, the start has hurt us for the remainder of the season. I think it's very important to start early, not just for David, but the whole club. I think David is done a great job in what they're building from a baseball operations standpoint. Is they are building a foundation that the whole team is going to grow out of, and a culture. And again, hearing them talk during the off season at some events and things that I was at, there is a whole lot being said about the culture that is being developed, and that starts with David and the coaching staff, and it carries on. And with the players that they have brought in, Nick Castellanos again, with the addition of him in January, and listening at the press conference, this was a team that he wanted to play for. Mike Moustakas, I think that you see these guys when they have conversations with the organization and they see where they're moving and how it's being moved as a group. I think that you have a lot of solid baseball players that would love to be a part of that.
You mentioned the culture of the Reds organization. How different are the players acting going into this season as opposed to last?
Well, honestly, I haven't really been around them too much, around the caravan. a few of them. Reds Fest, a few of them. But my understanding is, again, that the conversations have been had with the team individually, and now I'm sure collectively in Goodyear, about the fact of, hey, look, we're going after this together. You can tell by the moves that have been made in the off season. Being a group and a cohesive unit is going to be important. I think that's probably the message that's being conveyed. What I'm hearing and the excitement that you tend to get in hearing people talk, I think that you're going to find the Joey Vottos of the world and the people that have been with the organization for a while not just excited about the way things ended last year, because that's one of the things you heard too, is that from a clubhouse standpoint and from an organization and the team itself, there were a lot of guys that ended last season feeling pretty good about the future of this organization. Now all of a sudden you see the additions that have been made, and like I said, somebody like a Joey Votto, he's just got to be as excited as he can be about the prospects. And look, everybody wants to be a winner and wants to be on a winner, and I think that everybody realizes the potential that this team's going to start the season with.
Joe Zerhusen, broadcast and affiliates manager, joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. I want to bring up a couple of names that didn't have the 2019 season that the fans were hoping for, or even them themselves were not hoping for. Rice Iglesias has been a strong closer, struggled at times last year. Does he have a bounce-back season?
I think so. I think that right there you have somebody that I think he knows that he wants to prove that he is the strong closer and the guy at the end of the game that they want to have out there. I think that you are going to see. Something there that's going to be very impressive. And look, let's face it. Last year he was impressive at times, and yeah, he had his moments. But yes, I think that you're going to see something. I think you're going to see something everybody's going to be happy with.
And Joey Votto, a name you mentioned, last year wasn't a terrible season for him, but it was below, I think, his standards for what he expects to play at. Does Joey Votto get things going back here in 2020?
Oh, I think the key there is what you said about what he expects. And I don't think that you find anybody that expects more out of themselves than Joey Votto. He works so hard. I think you can be. I think you can be pretty sure that during the off season, he looked at last year. He looked at every element of his game, and he looked at ways of improving it. Maybe a mindset adjustment. I don't know. I would just venture to say that every element of his game, as he looked at it last year going into the season, I'm sure that he did a nice little review of it and said, okay, with this, maybe this is now a direction. And that's just the kind of player he is. Nobody works harder. And I also think that what's going to happen with Joey, and again, this is just my feeling, and as a fan and somebody that sees them, like all other fans see them on the field, hear the things that they say, and interact with them a little bit in things that you'll see. I think that this makeup of this team fits Joey a lot better too. When you start throwing in Nick Castellanos in there, a Moustakas, players of that quality, but also somebody that's been around for a while like Moustakas. I think that what you have, I still think Joey Votto is the leader of this team. There's no doubt in my mind. However, you have some guys now that might be a little more vocal than Joey tends to be. Joey leads by example, and he's there, and I'm sure that he has interaction with the other players and conversations. But I think now, when you start adding some of these other elements, and again, like a Moustakas, who has been around for so long and has such a track record, I think that you're going to find that's going to help Joey a lot too.
Now the questions that you probably don't want to answer, and you probably won't, to be fair, but I'm going to ask them anyway. How many wins does this team have this season, and can they win, or will they win, the NL Central?
Look, I think I've told you we've talked about this before, Trevor, and I am an eternal optimist, and every year I'll go into it and I shoot high. And look, this is not founded on science or anything. I will say that yes, the club will win the division, and I believe honestly, and I'm not overshooting too much on this. I wouldn't be surprised to see 90 wins this year out of this team. I really wouldn't. And again, I mean, I have people around here that are always saying, it's always sunshine with you. I think last year I said they would win 95, and that knowing that the chances of that were very minuscule. But at the same time, I'll put those numbers out there because I want to believe them, and then at the end of the season, when it comes close, I'm going to be able to say, see, I said, that's what I said. But I'll always shoot high, man. The division is always tough. It's going to be St. Louis is always tough. Milwaukee, Chicago. I mean, you have some people that they look at them and say, did they do anything on the off season that really helped them? But look, the division can be a very tough division to play in. Winning it, it's not going to be a cakewalk. Does this team have the potential to do it? I do believe that they do, yes.
I know the Reds are always trying to evolve things there at the ballpark for fan experiences and such. What things do you guys have going on this year?
Well, like I was telling you when we talked earlier, right now behind me in my office, they've totally taken the press box and they've moved the actual working press box down to one of the lower levels, and up here on the press box in the press box row. They're putting a new club in there, the press club, so that is definitely going to be something. The fan zone is being redone, but the things that fans will see right off the bat is the new scoreboards. The scoreboard production, totally gutted, and so there's brand new scoreboard and even new equipment internally. So yeah, there's always things that are being done around here, and this year is absolutely no exception.
And I did see one thing about the Reds are looking to hire a bunch of people by opening day. What's that about?
Oh, that's a yearly thing. As far as hiring people, in-season staff, ushers, concessions, all of that. I mean, that's a yearly. They have, I know they call it a job fair. And I believe they had something over the weekend. But yeah, that's an annual event. I think you'll find for any club is trying to get people for game day operations and to staff so many different things that happen around the ballpark. The thing about the Reds, and again, this is an organization, and I've told you this in the past. I really love working for this organization. This year, you're seeing some things happening on the field that are moving in a direction that has everybody excited as far as the player situation and all of that. But it's another thing, too, is that there is what is called the Reds way. And it is a mentality, and it is a philosophy of how to work with the fans when they get here at the ballpark to make it just a tremendous experience. And that is something that this organization, that the Castellini organization, believes in and works toward from top to bottom. And that's they're staffing up for the year and getting some good people to come in here and take care of the fans as they get here.
Joe Zerhusen, broadcast and affiliates manager, and helping us here at 106.1 ESPN Radio, joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. Joe, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to another discussion later on in the season, and hopefully this Reds team will get off to a strong start, and we'll be talking about, maybe a playoff run.
Wouldn't that be nice, Trevor? It's always enjoyable. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, let's hope that right from the get-go this year, that month of April really is something that solidifies what a lot of people believe is happening here, and that is that this is going to be a year of a real nice playoff run. So let's hope it starts early, and I look forward to getting together with you again.
Opening day is right around the corner.
Yes, it is. 26th of March. We'll be here before you know it.
Once again, Joe Zerhusen there of the Cincinnati Reds joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. A big thank you to him for coming on and talking about the Reds, who are going to be exciting, you have a feeling, here in 2020, and we hope that once opening day arrives that they get off to a strong April so that we could possibly look at maybe a playoff run out of this Reds organization. Well, when we come back, we'll put a wrap on today's show. A big thing in wrestling here, in local wrestling, we're going to talk about, and we'll get into some college hoops action as well. In the final segment, it's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPN Radio 1061.com. And welcome back into Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio 1400 AM. Once again, we are live streaming on ESPN Radio 1061.com as we get ready to wrap up today's edition of the show. And I want to thank you again to Joe Zerhusen, who joined me in the last segment talking about the Reds. We talked local 17th District boys and girls basketball and what we expect in the 5th region in segment 1. And right now, to kick off this segment, I want to congratulate a state champion over the weekend, North Hardin's Devin Herron, who defeated LaRue County's Thomas Hops in the 126-pound title. A 7-2 decision in the 126-pound state championship. And in a quote, "It feels amazing," Herron said. "I think that a majority thought Hops was going to beat me. Going into it, everyone's saying he's stronger than me, he's faster than me. Got to watch out for that," is what he ended up saying. That, of course, in the story for that Matt Tyson did from our good friends over at the News Enterprise. So a big win for Matt or Devin, excuse me, who ended up winning the 126-pound championship there in wrestling over the weekend. And coming from a state where I'm from, Iowa, where wrestling is basically number 2 to football, I got to say that that's a pretty big deal to have local talent performing at a high level in the world of wrestling, mat wrestling, that is. Let's go ahead and talk about some college hoops action as we're going to talk Kentucky, Louisville, Western Kentucky. Of course, we are Hilltoppers affiliates here at 106.1 ESPN Radio, and let's begin with the Hilltoppers. And they wrapped up their season over the weekend, actually, taking on UTSA on the road, winning 77-73. In fact, a couple of big victories for the Hilltoppers to wrap up their 2019-2020 season, as they won 67-62 on Thursday over UTEP, and then staying in the state of Texas, they defeated the University of Texas San Antonio by 4 in a close one. Second overall is where Western Kentucky finished in the Conference USA standings, and so now the Conference USA tournament will be here, and I guess we'll see where the Hilltoppers will go from that point forward, as you always like to end the season strong like they did. And so getting a couple of victories, in fact, ending the season on a 4-game winning streak. Of course, they won the 2 home games last week, and then, or I guess 2 weeks ago, and then this last week winning on the road twice. That has to make you feel pretty good if you're the Hilltoppers at this point. But looking at Saturday's matchup against UTSA, the Hilltoppers ended up getting outscored in the second half, 30-23. It had to go to overtime to decide it, and there the Hilltoppers fortunately able to secure the victory, winning 13-9, or outscoring the Roadrunners 13-9 in the overtime period to win by 4. Jared Savage had 24 points on Saturday for the Hilltoppers, also 16 rebounds. He was doing some work both offensively and defensively. Carson Williams finished the day with 8 points. Tavion Hollingsworth finished with 23 points and 6 boards. Jordan Rawls had 10 points, and Josh Anderson also had 10 points in 33 minutes of play on Saturday for the Hilltoppers in their win, improving them to 18-8 overall on the season. There were some question marks on this team if they could be the same team that they were a year ago, and I think they have proven that they could be pretty good in Conference USA play, and dropping the Roadrunners to 12-15 overall. So the Hilltoppers winning on Saturday thanks to Jared Savage's 24 points and 16 boards, a very productive day for Mr. Savage, which, by the way, that's an awesome last name. Can we all agree to that? I like my last name, but Savage is pretty cool as well. For the Cardinals over the weekend, they ended up playing against Clemson on the road and ended up having much more of a challenge than I think Cardinals fans would have liked. In fact, 2 straight losses for the Cardinals. They beat Wake Forest back Wednesday the 5th and then defeated Virginia 1 week ago this past Saturday by 7, 80-73, and then they dropped 2 on the road this last week, losing to Georgia Tech 64-58 on Wednesday, and then losing to Clemson on Saturday, just getting destroyed 77-62. Even though they did outscore the Tigers by 2 in the second half, the Cardinals' offense just was not there in the first half of play. 31-14, getting outscored there, and there's playing catch up from that point moving forward. Dwayne Sutton had 18 points for the Cardinals. Samuel Williamson scoreless. Steven Enich had 3. Lamar Kimball 4. 5 points for Darius Perry. Just nobody showing up. David Johnson had 12 with 6 boards, but the first half just a complete struggle as Clemson took it to them down there in South Carolina, improving their overall record to 13-12. The Cardinals dropping to 21-5. Losing 77-62 on Saturday. So where it was a good day for the Hilltoppers, a bad one, and one to forget for the Cardinals fan base. And now coming up, they take on Syracuse. That coming up on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Then they play North Carolina at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So a game this Wednesday, a game this Saturday for the Cardinals. We'll see how they keep going. Hopefully, for Cardinals fans' sake, they can end this drought and get back on the winning side this week. For the Wildcats, they ended up beating Mississippi on Saturday. Not the best showing from the Wildcats fans. From the Wildcats, I think the fans would say that they would like to have a bigger win against a team like Mississippi, but hey, a win is a win, right? 67-62. They also beat Vanderbilt this past week, Tuesday, by the score of 78-64 on Saturday. The Wildcats improving to 20-5 overall with their 12th ranking, and then so you look at the scoring. Nick Richards had 16 points. Emmanuel Quickly had 17 points on Saturday. 5 boards for Tyrese Maxey to go along with his 14 points on Saturday. And then E.J. Montgomery having 8 rebounds, not necessarily showing anything on the scoreboard. Only 2 points for him on Saturday as the Wildcats win by 5, 67-62. Coming up this week for the Wildcats, tomorrow they will take on number 25 LSU at 9 p.m., and then they will take on Florida on Saturday at 6 p.m. So that's what's coming up for the Wildcats this week as they get ready to wrap up the season. Then we'll get into the SEC tournament. We'll talk about the ACC tournament. We'll talk about the Conference USA tournament as well coming up here. So we are at that time. We're going to be talking about the 17th District Boys and Girls Tournaments, 5th Region Tournaments. Like I said, SEC, ACC, Conference USA. It's tournament time, people. And as you know, March Madness is around the corner. We're going to be talking a lot of college hoops here in the coming weeks, so be looking out for that. I am Trevor Rice, though. Thank you so much for joining me on Heartland Sports Live today, as I want to give a big thank you to Joe Zerhusen again. Congratulations to Devin Herron of North Hardin on that big championship over the weekend in wrestling. And congratulate all of your favorite teams who ended up winning this past week and over the weekend, too. Heartland Sports Live comes back at you next Monday, 5 until 6, right here on 106.1 ESPN Radio. Have a fantastic sports week.